Hey everyone, Python here, and never thought I'd see the day where I'd be making a video of my impressions of a Pikmin 4 demo. After the many years of this elusive game, being so close but yet so far from our reach, of it being nearly completed, it's so crazy that just last year it was teased to us, and now so much hype and advertising push is happening for the game, and we even have a whole demo now. So I've gone through it several times. I've used up all 3 files. I only have footage of me doing it through 2 files because after I finished recording, and it was quite a lot of recording. I think I spent like 10 hours on this. I think I got like almost 2 hours of footage, which I really edited and cut down for this video. So I have quite a lot to say, as this is probably my most anticipated game of all time. I gotta be honest with you, I have a lot to say, and I think it bodes well for the game in some aspects, and I am worried about some other aspects, and I'll go over all that here. So if you enjoy this, like, subscribe, I really appreciate it, and let's get started. By the way, I talk about spoilers because of the demo, and I show quite a lot of gameplay, so if you're trying to avoid that kind of stuff, I would click off the video. That's just my advice, but if you've been through it as extensively as I have, then do stick around and maybe share your thoughts as well in the comments. I'd really like to see what you guys think of this. Well, anyway, so yeah, the premise, Olimar crash lands like usual, and he has to find the ship parts using the help of the Pikmin, and he uses a dog's help that he calls Moss, and you're inside this house that instead of the forest navel, the radar is in this place, and you fight a boss to get it. You scour around for your Pikmin, which is a very nice hub area, very nice introduction, has a bit of tutorial bits which kind of remind me of 3, which is, I like it. I think this whole beginning of the game was very well done. It didn't overstay its welcome, and it just felt lovely walking around the house finding the Pikmin. Well, anyway, he finds that ship part, and he needs to send the SOS signal, which a whole month later, finally they respond, the rescue corps, which you're a part of, your avatar, and they crash land as well. So it's up to you to both get Olimar and the crewmates, as well as find treasures or anything that has sparklium, which is something that's from Hey Pikmin, which is very interesting. You have to basically get treasures to get sparklium from them in that game with Olimar, so very interesting aspect they brought in from a spinoff. But anyway, that's pretty much the premise. You have to get all those things, castaways, crew members, and Olimar and treasures. So it's like a combination of elements from all 3 games put together, which is very nice. It's something that I really wish they would have done, which they did. This next area is a hub area where no time passes, and I think that's a very nice touch. I don't know why they haven't done this in a Pikmin game before. It makes total sense. It's like it is like an RTS game, so it would make sense for you to have some kind of area where you can prepare yourself. It even has like a couple power pellets for you to take down, for you to grow your Pikmin up a bit before you start the day exploring in an area you pick. You're able to train Ochi, which you find here along the captain and the engineer. You also find him in this place in one of the caves. But it's a very nice place. Basically, all the castaways and everything that you find will appear here in this area. It's gonna get more populated as time goes by, as I have noticed the more crewmates and castaways that I find throughout time. I like this area. I think this is a nice touch and a good change of pace, and even more relaxing pace, because yeah, like I said, it helps you really prepare for whenever you're out to go adventuring and exploring for the day. I really like this aspect in this place. Before you go to the main area that you can go explore, the very first area in the demo, you have to do a couple things in that sub area, like you find a couple treasures to get sparklium, and you find the Game Boy Advance SP, which is really cool. I like that that's a treasure that you find. I can't wait to see more of these types of treasures that you find. That's something that I absolutely loved about Pikmin 2, and it's my favorite one. That's one of the biggest aspects to treasures, so I'm glad that part of it with the fun historical treasure pieces are back. But anyway, that's after you get all that set up, the engineer guy will pretty much let you pick out the first area, and it's called the Sun Speckled Terrace. Now this place is huge. This is big. Like, whenever you first enter it, you're not gonna feel it at first, but when you start exploring this area, it is big. I'm telling you, there's so much ground to cover up and down. Like, you go up to like a certain like build up mountainous area up there, you go into the water, you go to a whole bunch of areas up and down. And whenever you unlock Ochi's jump mounting ability, you're able to jump up ledges, and it increases the explorability, and it really just helps the world build so much better, I feel, than even like any of the previous games. Like, I feel like this huge, it almost feels like a Pikmin playground, just being able to walk around this giant beautiful landscape that you can use Ochi to traverse, whether it's swimming or jumping around, using your Pikmin to like lower clipboards. It's all structured so well. Really like what you experience in this first area. But of course, that isn't the only thing you're able to experience the overworld. You're also able to explore the returning caves. So the caves from the second game are back, but they are not at all the same. In the second game, they're these like kind of like dark, damp areas for the most part. There are some unique areas like the toy room aesthetic and that kind of stuff, the rust, and some of those from the like at the end of the demo it does show some of those, but I guess we won't get to experience those until later. But for now, for the most part, they were just like regular caves or kind of rustic looking areas, and that's fine as it's the first area. There were 5 of these that you could dive into in that first area, and this is kind of where I kind of run into my first issue with it, is that while I like the caves, they are very well put together. They're not randomly generated like they are in 2, so I'm pretty sure most people gave a big sigh of relief of that. It's one of the issues that a lot of people have with the second game. I think I never really minded it that much. I always felt it was just funny and fun, just being able to jump into like altered caves of the same sub-levels. It was just an aspect I generally liked about the game, but I understand people not liking that. So yeah, these are gonna be more not randomly generated, structured, always set puzzle pieces. I say puzzle pieces because yeah, they pretty much have a lot of puzzle elements to it. You can have like these jellies that only Ice Pikmin can freeze and destroy. You can use Ochi's charge to destroy them once they're frozen. You have a bunch of like little they're like from the third game challenges. You have these conveyor belts, and you can press buttons to change the direction. That came back from 3, so they're incorporating elements of both the second game's caves and the challenge level layouts of the third game, and combining them into like these fun set pieces of puzzles, which I think they were fun. They were fun to go through. I liked. Again, it's one of my favorite aspects of the second game, so I'm glad that they're back and that they're more puzzle focused, and it makes it really fun. But the thing is that every single one of these 5 caves never got past 2 sub-levels. Now, I would understand for like the first 2 or 3 if that was the case, but this is an entire area of the 4th game, like an entire area, and it's big, it's luscious, and it has 5 whole caves to explore. So I was expecting that at least 1 or 2 of these caves would be able to dive deeper than just 2 sub-levels, but they didn't. And none of them even had a boss either. There was that one blowhog enemy that charges at you. It does play I think that's the Pikmin 4 boss music, but I'm not really sure. Maybe it's like an unusual encounter or something music. But I don't really consider that a boss. It just seems like a regular enemy to me. But besides that, no, it was just a couple of easy to kill enemies here and there, like a bunch of bulwarks and stuff like that. And I kind of hope that maybe in the next couple of areas they really amp up the depth of these by many sub-levels and maybe crank up the difficulty of the enemies a bit. I'm sure it will, but I'm just slightly disappointed that given we were able to explore an entire first area in this demo, none of the caves really offered up much of a challenge, when usually in the second game at least 1 or 2 caves in every single area in that game gave quite a bit of challenge. Like even in the very first area of Pikmin 2, there's probably like a cave or two that were very like deep and a bit hard, but oh well, that's just an issue that I personally have. But that's my take on caves. I really am excited to see more of the caves when the game comes out. Maybe that'll change. There's also the aspect of you, of course, having to find ice Pikmin only underground, just like purple and white, but thank goodness they don't seem to have candy pop flower buds this time. Instead, you can just find them either like dug into the ground that you can unplug them up, or just find them like inside of like the jellies or inside of pots or just laying about or fighting monsters. I think that's feels much more natural as they're wild Pikmin. I like that approach, but they also did it with yellow Pikmin. It's how you found yellow Pikmin, and I don't know, that seems a bit off to me. It seems because in every single game you found reds, yellows, and you know, purples, not purples, but red, yellow, blue, winged, and rock Pikmin. You kind of just found them with their onion and everything, so it just seems kind of odd that they kind of left that approach and instead just put yellow Pikmin to be found underground. But that's just a small gripe. You do find the yellow onion above ground, so when you carry that back, and also the blue onion, but it's kind of hard to do that in the demo, but I ended up doing it on my second file. But yeah, you're able to carry those onions back to the red onion and they kind of just combine, and just like in the third game, that they just combine together and then you're able to just pull them out all from there, so that's nice. It's more convenient. I know people really like the way it's done in 1 and 2 where there's separate onions. Personally, I like that too, but with this whole game, the whole point is that it's about dandori, that basically it's like the efficiency and the way you manage the tasks given to you and doing them as efficient and precise as possible. And that's pretty much the premise, and I can understand that's why there's so many changes to this game. Like the whole having the onions back is just one thing. The Pikmin limit, which is another thing I was iffy about. You basically only start out with 20 Pikmin in this, but it's fine. Again, I get it. It goes along with the premise and point of the game with dandori, and I think it could actually lead to a bit of good design when it comes to you having to manage your Pikmin very well. Same with having 3 Pikmin types. That's another really divisive thing going around right now. I actually like this aspect as well. It makes it's another unique twist to the 4th game that separates it from the rest. And again, it makes you want to think up more strategically, like what 3 types do I need for this certain situation, or I'm probably just gonna need this one. Like I feel like it is going to lead up later on into the game into a whole lot of strategical thinking, especially since you won't have 3 captains to manage this time. You're back to just using your avatar, or Ochi being a captain is actually really cool. But between you two, and they added this element of the Pikmin limit and the Pikmin type limit to further enhance the gameplay, and to make up for the fact that it lacks the 3 captain control. Another aspect I really like another quality of life thing was what was it? Whenever you're about to enter a cave, you're basically able to control the number of Pikmin you can bring with you to that cave, which is such a good time saver. I absolutely love this change. Like in the second game, yeah, it suggests you what types you would need, which was nice, but of course it's such a vast improvement of the way that you're able to just control how many Pikmin you can of each type and everything before you enter the cave before. So vast improvement there. And talking about vast improvements, yeah, the gameplay, of course, it feels just as smooth as it does in 3. Like, it feels very streamlined, like, it's very snappy, responsive, moving around, throwing Pikmin. You know, doing your tasks using the controller is very nice. You can barely change them, which I wish is something Nintendo can do, just let you, you know, manage your button layout and everything, but it just seems like it's something they're never gonna do. Now, the one aspect of the controls I literally do not like is the auto lock-on. The game has the lock-on from the previous game, sure, that's fine, but on top of that, they add an auto lock-on, and it's really annoying because I would try to, let's say there's a couple of items that are on the floor, I would try to shoot at some specific ones, but this auto lock-on just decides to fixate itself on this aspect and this aspect. Maybe, and while I was fighting a red bullboard, there were some butterflies on it, and at some point it just auto locked on into one of the butterflies, and it caused my throwing of Pikmin to go off, and it made the bullboard have enough time to react and eat some of my Pikmin. So it's a bit annoying. I get why they're doing it. I'm sure a bunch of new players will find that feature nice because it makes throwing it to objects. Of course, it has helped a couple of times, I'm not gonna lie, but more than half the time it was a bit of a nuisance. And talking about more than half the time it being a nuisance, there is that thing where when you're throwing Pikmin, it pauses when you reach the throw weight, the object weight. So let's say there's something that weighs 12 and you start throwing, but then it stops when you throw 12 and you're not able to throw anymore. But if you stop a bit, then you can keep going. I get what they're doing with that. It's to keep it, again, it's the efficiency thing. You know, you don't want to overthrow your Pikmin. You want to use as many as possible to spread them around more evenly throughout your squad, which makes sense, but it can be a bit annoying at times because I do like to give it more Pikmin than the object's weight so that it can be carried back faster and everything. One aspect that it does work well is whenever you're trying to throw ice Pikmin to freeze the water, as you don't want to accidentally throw another type of Pikmin into the water. So that aspect I can understand why they did that. That is helpful. Okay, so let's see, another thing would be, the Dandori battles. So there's 2 instances in the demo where you're able to go into a Dandori battle. Pretty much these are, the first time you encounter this is that the quote Olimar character with that moss dog. They basically take a castaway into the pit and you follow them and you have to face them off in a Dandori battle, which pretty much is a timed battle mode where you have to gather the most stuff into to accumulate points, and the one who gets the most stuff and the most points wins. It's pretty simple. It's kind of lacking in what I like in a battle mode, I'm not gonna lie. It's fun, but it kind of wish it was a bit more than just that. But it was fun nonetheless. There was a second one that you can do where instead of it being like a battle, it was instead just the character, the leafling as they call him, watches over you as you walk around the set stage and gather materials on your own, as he kind of just gives you advice here and there. I actually like this one more. It reminded me of the treasure missions in the third game, the extra content where you're able to go around collecting treasures in a certain amount of time. That's what it reminded me of, and I like that. So if these Dandori things that you face off against leaflings are a varied bunch of events and not just the battle and this treasure hoard thing, if they manage to kind of differentiate them out and make them unique across the board, that would be actually pretty good. I would actually really like that, and that's what I'm hoping for. Okay. Now going back to the whole Pikmin limit type and everything, even with the Pikmin limit, amount and typing, you're still able to 100% the entire first area in the demo. I 100% it on my second file and within 6 in-game days. I don't know if this is a good or bad thing. I think it's good to practice your efficiency, like it really makes you feel good that you're able to use your efficiency skills to get everything that you need to get everything done in a mannerly time, and being able to just improve on your, again, efficiency skills. I keep saying that, your management, time skills, and everything. I don't know, just being able to 100% the very first area just within 6 days. Usually in a Pikmin game, you're able to do just a bare minimum of the first area. Then you expand to a new area, you get some more Pikmin types, some more capabilities to your ship and everything, keep exploring around the different areas, and then you come back to the first couple areas to do more with what you gain. But here you're able to do this whole first area from the get-go, and it really changes everything. Is it gonna be like this in every area you unlock? Because you only have the red, yellow, ice, and blue. Blue you barely use like usual, but hey, they're there for a reason. Like you're able to use them regardless. But yeah, being able to do 100% the entire first area in the demo is like one of my biggest worries, as well as hopes, as it just I mean, the area is just so large, there's so much to do, so you wouldn't expect that you'd be able to do everything just from the get-go, just like that. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe you're able to do that with each area, and if they design it in the way that if you use a specific set of Pikmin types and amount, you're able to do that with every area, like going from one to the next to the next. And I wonder how that's gonna really go down with the level designs and world building, as well as the cave layouts. It's a bit concerning, but also I'm very curious to see how that goes down, so I can't wait. Now the enemies themselves, there's a bunch of returning ones and a couple of new ones that popped up. Like there's ice variant of the fire blowhog, which is cool, but there was already a water type one, so they kind of feel a bit samey, but it makes sense because, you know, ice Pikmin, they could face off against it just fine. The AI of these feel a bit improved over 3s, because if I realize fiery blowhogs seem to shake off Pikmin a bit faster than they could in 3, and red bulborbs don't do that weird thing in 3 where if you like throw Pikmin into their eyes, they just kind of jitter and get stunned a bit, and it makes fighting them so much simpler. That doesn't seem to be in this game, so I'm very glad. I always felt like the enemy AI and health pools were just kind of miserable in the third game, making it so easy. Yeah, it still feels very easy to kill enemies. You can still one-shot like the regular small bulborbs and little crawlies everywhere. You're still able to pretty much murder the big red bulborbs, given like if you use ice Pikmin, which you only need 10 to freeze, by the way, pretty overpowered. But it still feels a bit easy, but it feels like they did balance out these enemies more towards the harder side, which I'm glad they did. And speaking of ice Pikmin, let me talk about them for a bit. So ice Pikmin, they're a bit weird. Yeah, you only find them underground, they don't have their own onion, but you find them in the wild, they're wild Pikmin, which I think is great. I always kind of found it weird that the only way you can get purples was just through the buds that you find. Same thing with whites. But I like them as a concept. I was kind of skeptical of them at first, but they really did open a lot of opportunities and were really helpful. So you could freeze a couple of bodies of water in the first area, the terrace area. The big lake, which needed like 30, you're able to just go over there and then just build like a climbable wall, thanks to the water being frozen, and they're very useful. Like freezing enemies, it's very easy to freeze enemies, by the way. All you need is like 10 max and that enemy is frozen within seconds. Kind of hope that they nerf that a bit. I know that sounds odd, but it just makes fighting enemies a bit trivial. It's the same thing as the purples in 2, pretty much they trivialize fighting enemies entirely, but whatever, I don't really think it's that big a deal. They're still fun to use, and I'm actually a bit more hopeful of their utility and usefulness throughout the game, and I like their design too. A couple of things I'm more worried about compared to everything else I mentioned in like my pros and cons. It's the storytelling. Now it seems like people are very divisive on this, but it seems like this game is quote unquote retconning a whole lot of things that happened in the previous games. Like there's the Olimar retelling the events of 1 and what happened a bit differently. There's different locations that he went to, things that happened in different order, or just entirely different events that happened. Then there's him mentioning the events of 2, and it was just like a bad dream that he had. So all those aspects happen. I don't know, I think we should just wait on that aspect. I'm a bit worried, but even if it happens, I don't think it's that big of a deal if they do like an entirely new continuity or just a separate timeline. It's fine for the most part, but I am a bit worried of how they're gonna handle it. We'll see when the full game comes out. And the other thing is how hand-holdy and how dialogue heavy like the first half hour to an hour of this demo was. So there's a lot of dialogue and interruptive cutscenes and dialogue that happened throughout the first like I said, half hour, an hour, where like either the captain or Colin, the engineer dude, would just constantly call you with like tutorial bits and concepts and mechanics. It's fine, but I kind of liked how it was in the beginning of the game with Olimar just having a quick little bit of him calling the Pikmin to him, similar to the third game. I wish they had just kept the tutorial bits that simple and not this. I think it's a bit excessive. I hope that they kind of address this. I get it, it's new players. Like basically they're approaching this game with thinking that it's gonna be people's, which it will be, most people's first Pikmin game. So they have to keep that in mind as they design the aspects like the tutorial bit, the dialogue, the being able to explain everything properly, and you know, all the little story bits and mechanics and everything. It's fine, but I wish that they could also listen to its more hardcore fan base and maybe having like a toggle on and off to turn that kind of stuff off, because it's kind of annoying. Like when again I did a second and third playthrough of this, and it was just kind of annoying having to skip so much of this dialogue and cutscenes. Very, very heavy. But besides that, it was a bit helpful on the first time I was doing it. And I don't think I talked about Ochi actually. I guess that'll be one of the last things I talk about. Ochi is, again, I was a bit skeptical, just like most were, but he is amazing. He acts like a Pikmin. He has his own carry weight, which you can improve. I improved it to like carry weight 10. Very helpful. He even fights enemies. He even acts as his own captain. Basically a callback to the second game where you're able to control. It's like a callback to the second game, you being able to control either Olimar or Louis, or when you progress further, Olimar and the President. But I just feel like Ochi is just far more useful because Ochi is able to act like a captain. You're able to jump on him for transport, including all your Pikmin. He's able to hop around for you to traverse further into the level. He's a fantastic addition to the series, and I hope that they keep Ochi or something similar to Ochi in later titles, because again, it adds so much to the gameplay and explorability aspect of the game. Very fine addition. Also, he's just really adorable, like fantastic, super cute design and just adorable. I love this thing so much. Another gripe that I have is that you don't really see difficulty options like in 3 Deluxe. There were none even. I really like that in 3 Deluxe, and yeah, it's kind of a bummer that 4 isn't going to be retaining that. I hope that in some shape or form we're able to get difficulties back, whether it's through an update or something, because they were a really nice addition to 3. And when it comes to the Pikmin AI, I thought they were already pretty refined in 3. Again, it goes along with all of that game's refinements and more mainstream, more streamlined mechanics and gameplay, which I think are fantastic and are still the best in the series. And along with its AI, there's still a bit of iffy behavior here and there, but it seems like they tinkered a bit more with that, and the AI in 4 is further improved upon. I think it's the smartest yet, which is fantastic. I did have a moment or two where they still do that thing where the Pikmin, maybe like you have 1 or 2 that are kind of struggling to grab the object as it's moving or being carried. They still haven't really worked that out. I don't know if they're doing that on purpose at this point, but that's still a thing. It is a cute little quirk though. And the other thing is, whenever I was carrying another object, a Pikmin got kind of stuck in a slanted position when it kind of fell from a hill. I don't know if that happened to anybody else, but I guess that's a glitch more than the AI itself kind of messing up. But I thought that was kind of funny. So yeah, still a little bit of an iffy thing here and there, but yeah, I think they're the smartest yet. They're really responsive. They get the job done much better. They follow you perfectly. Yeah, I'm really impressed with the AI of the Pikmin. And again, really goes along with the theme of the game of efficiency. Really well done so far from what I've seen. I don't have much to say on the music because honestly, there's not really much to listen to. Like the first part, I like the little goofy sounding music of being inside the house with Olimar. Then afterwards, when you're in the hub area and the sun-speckled terrace, it just felt a bit more atmospheric and like more nature sounding, like if you know what I mean, like immersive kind of nature noises. That seems to be the kind of approach they're going for. The only actual tangible music I remember is whenever you're fighting that needle enemy in the beginning of the prologue with Olimar, which is like the Pikmin 2 boss music, which I absolutely love, by the way. That they brought that back. Doesn't sound the same, of course, but I like that it's still around. And then when you fight that same creature in the sun-speckled terrace, it's like this, and that new blowhog enemy that charges. Both of them play like this kind of almost tribal kind of music with like drums and like very nice beats and rhythm. Like it's something unlike anything I've ever heard in Pikmin music, but I think it works so well. So it seems like this seems more nature focused, kind of like almost tribal at times music, and I'm honestly here for it. It seems like this OST is gonna have some odd vibes, and I'm really here for it. Like again, I'm all for this game trying out many different things, and it seems like in the music department it's gonna be the same thing. Now, when it comes to the scientist dude, I didn't say anything about him yet. I do like him as well. I think his name was Russ. That's where you do your upgrades. When it comes to upgrading yourself, I'm still a bit shaky on that because I much preferred the way you do it in the second game, where you have to find the treasures and objects that actually improve yourself. It felt like actual progression. This just kind of feels a bit more artificial. Not that there's anything wrong with it, as you do have to still venture out to find the raw materials to help improve. But I think that works more with the bridge building more than it does with the upgrades. But maybe I'll warm up to it. I do like that it's not just like armor and that kind of stuff for yourself. It is also like actual mechanics, like the charging is locked behind there. I'm guessing the swarm, which came back, which is awesome apparently, is gonna be on there as well as an upgrade. So maybe I'll warm up to it later, we'll see. But as of now, I'm a bit shaky on the upgrade. I do love the Ochi upgrades though. Those are great, and I already love Ochi a lot as is. So Ochi upgrades good, self upgrades a bit shaky on. Oh, and don't get me started on the co-op mode. I didn't want to say anything about it, but we all know it sucks. 3 Deluxe got it down so perfectly with its story mode co-op and they just completely ditch it for some Super Mario Galaxy weird pointer co-op thing where you throw pebbles. It's so bad. I really wish they could at some point add it into the game, because Ochi literally acts like a captain, so it makes no sense why they couldn't just make Ochi playable by a second player. It's such a huge missed opportunity, and frankly very disappointing. It's one of my biggest issues with 4. Oh my god, I actually didn't even talk about the Picklopedia and the treasure hoard yet. So basically one of the castaways that you find, he seems to be like a very flamboyant guy, that he even calls the creatures darlings and everything. I like the guy, he's cool. Some people don't really care about him much, but he pretty much is the animal specialist, so you go to him and you're able to see the Picklopedia. And yeah, it might seem like a little basic looking, the UI and everything, like it does in 3 Deluxe, which I'm glad that it returned in 3 Deluxe. No, I don't mean to offend, it was awesome, but it just wasn't as in-depth and super engrossing as it was in 2. But this one might even surpass the second games. Now, while the music in it isn't as good as the Picklopedia music in the second game, it's literally my favorite video game soundtrack of all time. But it does its job. You are able to see everything about the creatures, like same thing, like their stats, how much they weigh, how much you've KO'd, how much they've killed of your Pikmin, where do you find them, their scientific name, and a little video feed of them. And you're able to see the animal specialist's thoughts on them, on each of the creatures. So basically like the journal notes of Olimar, Louie, and in the 3 Deluxe also the Alf, Brittany, and Charlie, they also give their own thoughts. It's basically like that, but for this animal specialist. Now, I've seen some people say they don't really care what he has to say. Hey, I'll take anything. Okay, maybe later on if you rescue Olimar, maybe he also gave us perspectives on these creatures as well. I think that'd be nice, but I'll take it. But then the aspect that I said would probably make it surpass the second game's Picklopedia is you being able to actually interact in game with them. So you're able to hover over them and you're able to engage them, so you actually get put into that observing area of the creature with Pikmin and everything, and you're able to fight it. It's really cool. Like that changes everything in the Picklopedia. It's basically almost like a training ground, which kind of makes the more basic music make sense. You're basically training. You can use it as a training ground. It's a way to practice, be more, again, efficient. I bring that up again, efficiency. It makes you manage your strategies against each enemy very well, increase your efficiency in time, and not being able to let your Pikmin get as hurt. You can do this with all the creatures, everything. It's so cool. And you're able to also use items like bomb rocks, even ice rocks, which freeze them when they explode. You're even able to use a lightning strike, which stuns them, and of course the usual pick carrots to distract them. It's very fascinating. It seems like it really just is a complete improvement over the second game's Picklopedia, which is what I've been wanting. I wanted Picklopedia in its fullest back from 2, but they went further with it, and again, it's one of my favorite aspects in all of gaming, so I'm glad that they really did a good job on that. Same thing with the treasure hoard. You're able to just go through them. You're able to examine. It's not as in-depth as the Picklopedia, but you are able to just view them on a far better detail than you could in 2. You can zoom in and out, turn them around in any angle you want. And of course also the notes that the treasure hoard rescue the castaway has to say about them as well. So very glad those 2 aspects are back and improved upon, honestly, from 2. That's a really big plus. And yeah, I think that's everything that I have to say about the demo. I know this is a really long video and a bit excessive for just a demo, but again, it's basically probably one of my most anticipated games of all time, like for all my life, and for good reason too, because we've been waiting for this game so long. And yeah, I had a lot to say about it, and I want to hear what you guys want to say. If you have any worries, any hopes, what did you think about it if you tried the demo? Did did it bring up your hopes of the game itself, or is it still leaving you worrisome? Well, yeah, it's fantastic. It's peak already. Like, this demo already has the game peaking at the peakness of it. Like, I'm not lying to you. Like, it almost pretty much just gives me everything that I wanted. Like, the caves into the exploration, and efficiency of 1 and 3, the urgency, it seems like, because you really need to find those castaways in Olimar. The hub area is very nice. The expansive level is so nice to explore. The restrictions are very nice. And the last thing I'll talk about is, wow, is this game gorgeous. I saved this bit for the last because it's the thing that impressed me the most. It is drop dead gorgeous. It is probably the most beautiful Switch game I have seen yet. And I thought that Metro Prime Remastered was absolutely stunning and was gonna keep the title. I know Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom look very impressive, and I love their art style, and it's very impressive what they're able to pull off from their massive worlds, but I feel like Metro Prime Remastered and now Pikmin 4 just blows everything out of the water in terms of just art style and graphics. It mind boggles me. Now, yeah, the game seems to be just like 3 Deluxe and that it runs in 30 FPS, but I think it's fine. I think the game runs just fine. I'm kind of disappointed it's not 60 FPS as far as I can tell, but maybe in the next system there will be like an upgrade you can have where it can be 60, but it looks gorgeous, man. Like the luscious environment of the sun-speckled terrace, all the little details and like the gardening of the area, the treasures that you can find, which I love that you can just have overworld treasures again as well. Just every little bit of it, it's just really nice. Nicely detailed. Even the hub area, even the house at the very beginning with Olimar in the prologue, it's all so nice. I cannot wait to explore everything of this game. The houses, the caves, the huge overworld maps. Like, this game is massive. If it took me over 10 hours to experience everything that this demo had to give me, this game is gonna be long, meaty, and juicy. This game could potentially be the best in the series because it has so much to offer. Yeah, I've talked about a couple of little issues that I have here and there, but they honestly are not that big of a deal. They are just, at best, minor things. But everything positive that I've talked about outweighs it 100 to 1. I'm telling you, and I hope that made me feel that way as well. And I know I said the last thing I talk about is the graphic fidelity, but I'll actually make this the last point. One aspect I wish was a bit different from 3 is the very streamlined UI. I understood that's how it was in 3 because, you know, they were using tablets and they were very technology heavy and advanced and everything, the copites, and it made perfect sense. I liked the UI in that game because it made sense to the technology that they had with the tablet and everything, but then pretty much just going with that again with the way Colin has the technology of the ship and the tablet that you use and everything, the menus and selections and everything just kind of irk me a bit. It kind of sucks, but whatever, it makes sense. They're trying to streamline everything, so it's not that big a deal. I feel like it's a small sacrifice to pay. In the gameplay is very refined like I was expecting, but there are some aspects that were a bit shaky about. Some cave aspects I was a bit shaky about here and there, and some of the lore implications I was also a bit shaky about. There's a bunch of things that I'm still a bit shaky on, but most of it is just pluses, and this demo really reassured me that I am definitely looking forward to probably the game of the year and probably one of the best games of all time again, maybe even surpassing my favorite game of all time, Pikmin 2, which I never thought I'd do today. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the demo. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe, I'd really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys on the hopeful Pikmin 4 review. Bye!